everybody. Happy Monday. I feel like it's been forever and a day since I have done a Mary Ann Monday video, so I'm very excited to be back. I'm going to start this video by sharing a story with you. I was a teenager of the 90s, and what that means is that I got all of my life advice from Alanis Morissette. And last weekend I was playing an old school playlist and her song That Particular Time popped up. And so there I was in my bathroom doing my hair and putting on my makeup, singing along, and then it came to the last verse. And as I was singing along to the last verse, I actually had to hit pause on the song and replay it. And the reason is because sometimes when this thing called life happens, she actually held the key to a really, really big question when it comes to tough situations of, do I stay or do I go? So here's the verse. At that particular time, love encouraged me to leave. At that particular moment, I knew staying with you meant deserting me. That month was harder than you'd believe, but I still left at that particular time. And for me, she really answered that key question of when the going gets tough, do I stay or do I go? Because it focused on you and authenticity. So in today's Mary Ann Monday, I am going to talk about probably one of the most complicated topics that I've talked about. And that is when you find yourself in a situation that no longer feels good, whether it's a job, a professional relationship, or a personal relationship, how can you navigate whether or not you should stick it out or if it's time to throw in the towel? Now, before I can dive into this, I need you to understand the thing that makes this situation so complicated is that anytime we are talking about cutting ties, feelings are involved. And as human beings, we are biologically built to connect with other people. Study after study has shown that if you do not have a solid support system, that lack of support system has a bigger effect on your health than obesity or smoking. That means that if you do not have close connections, it has a bigger negative impact on your health than eating Big Macs and smoking cigarettes every day. In other words, to simply just leave isn't always necessarily what feels the best. Now, I feel that Brené Brown actually really captures this in one of her quotes. And so I'm going to read that quote to you. And that is this: "A deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need of all people. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we were meant to. We break, we fall apart, we numb, we ache, and we hurt others." And I think that sometimes when we find ourselves in difficult situations, we have friends that like to offer advice. And the advice that they offer are things like, well, you should just go find you another job, or just leave that jerk, you can do better. Well, it's not quite that simple. And if we really find ourselves having to make a big decision, this advice isn't helpful. So right now, what I want to do is walk you through, if you find yourself in a situation that no longer feels good, how do you make the best decision for you of if you should stay or if you should go? Now, some of the feedback that I've got about Mary Ann Monday videos is that people have to take notes, and I've decided to solve that problem for you. So if you decide that you want to forego taking notes on these questions I need you to ask yourself, what you can do is simply go to the Work Warrior website. The link is in this Facebook post, and you can sign up for a worksheet. Like, I actually put a beautiful, easy to follow worksheet together that has all of these questions so that you can answer them in your own time when you are ready. So the first question I want you to ask when it comes to is it time to say goodbye is specifically, how do I feel about this situation? Now, I've talked about this in another video, so I want to bring it up again. When you are answering this question, I want you to pull out your lovely feelings wheel. Yes, this wonderful wheel that has lots and lots of feeling words on it. Now, if you don't have this particular one, you can just go to the Google and download your own feelings wheel so that you have more words to use as you're trying to figure out specifically, how do I feel when it comes to this situation? Now, here's a word of warning. If you decide to get really honest with yourself, it's quite possible that words like, I felt humiliated, I felt insignificant. I felt worthless. I felt ashamed might come up. And those are really big, uncomfortable words. Please go ahead and use them. If you're getting ready to make a decision that can impact your whole life, you need to be really honest about how that situation makes you feel, even if it means writing down really, really big, tough words. So question number 1, specifically, how does the situation or person make me feel? Question number 2, what are the specific behaviors that make me feel this way? When we're upset, usually we use phrases like, this is the worst job in the world, or that is the most terrible human that's ever lived. Guess what? Worst job in the world and most terrible human that ever lived are subjective, and not only are they subjective, I can't do anything with that. So you want to focus on the specific behaviors that are making you feel that way. So what that looks like is you would answer the question, when that happened, I felt. When that happened, I felt. Another reason that you want to focus on behaviors is you can't change people. You cannot change them no matter how hard you try, but you can change behaviors. So at the end of this exercise, if you feel like you want to stay, you've got the beginnings of how to have a conversation so that you can ask the other person to change specific behaviors so that you can get it back to good, or at least a place that feels better than it does right now. So that's why we want to focus on behaviors. The third question you want to ask yourself, if nothing were to change, how do I think I would feel in 3 months? So everything stays the same. How do you think you're going to feel 3 months from now? Now, when you answer this question, I want you to be really honest, and it's way okay to throw in the good and the bad. I would feel relieved because I care about this person and they're still in my life. I would feel relieved because I still have a paycheck. You know what? If nothing changed, I would feel really sad, or I would feel hopeless, or I would feel suffocated. However you want to answer that question, good and bad, really start to think about, if nothing changed, how does that make me feel? The next question you want to ask yourself, if I were to decide to leave 3 months from now, how would I feel? Now, when it comes to answering this question, I want you to focus on both the positive and the negative. So you might say to yourself, I would feel really sad because I would miss this person. I would feel really scared because I might not have a paycheck coming in that's as big as the other one. Or you might say things like, you know what? I would be sad, but I would also feel free, or I would not feel like I was being suffocated, or you know what, I might feel rested because I'm not spending so much time and energy focusing on this negative situation. So what's important for both of those questions is you answer the positive and the negative. Now, after you've answered both of those questions, you want to look at them and say, which do I choose to feel? Now, here's what you need to remember. It's quite possible when you make your lists, both of them are going to suck, right? Like, both of them are going to hurt. Now, sometimes in life, the question isn't what's going to make me happiest right now. The question is, between my two choices, which one would suck less? And that might be the question that you ask yourself. Another word of warning when it comes to this piece of the assignment. As human beings, we tend to choose comfort over happiness. So that means your natural inclination is going to be to stay in the status quo. That's just going to be naturally what you lean to. Please be aware of this simply so that you know, okay, I need to get out of this space and really look holistically at the situation. So now that you've answered those questions, what you're going to do is you're going to step back and you're going to look at all the stuff that you wrote, and you're going to ask yourself the next question. And this question actually came from Hillary Rodham Clinton's book, What Happened? And for about 3 pages, she talks about her relationship with Bill. So do not read the book if you're hoping to get the lowdown on that, because she only spends 3 pages on it. However, there was this little gem. She was talking about how every time another scandal would break with her husband, her friends would always say, well, I don't know how you can stay with that man. And she said that she had a question that she asked herself. And the question was, can I remain in this situation without becoming unrecognizable to myself, twisted by anger, resentment, and remoteness? And I remember reading this on a plane and I stopped because I thought it was such a good litmus test to kind of touch base with yourself and see, hey, when I'm in this situation, do I even recognize who I am? The reason that you want to answer that question yourself is if the answer is, yeah, like I actually am pretty rooted and I feel like I can be myself in this situation, even though it's terrible right now. Maybe your decision is to stay and to have a difficult conversation to see if the other person will change behaviors. But if the answer is no, nope, this has gone so far off the rails that I have no idea how to get myself back to good, well, then you have to answer your final question. And the final question is, so which do I choose? Do I choose me or do I choose them? Now, that's a really simple question, but because of feelings and our need to connect, it can feel like probably one of the most difficult questions that we have to answer. I think that one of the most powerful phrases in the English language is it is decided. When it is decided, our brain knows what we need to do in order to move forward and to feel better. So take all the time that you need to answer that question, but whatever you decide, make sure you put the phrase, it is decided, around that. Here is something that I want you all to hear me say very loudly and very clearly, and that is, whatever you decide to do, you have made the best decision for you. Sometimes, again, we have those unhelpful friends, you should just leave, or just dump the guy, or just go find a new job. That decision is yours and yours alone to make. These questions aren't to make you feel like you have to go one way or the other, but instead to give you some things to think through when you're trying to make that really big life decision. So anyhow, I feel that it's only appropriate to close this video with another Alanis Morissette quote. This time it is from her song, Thank You, and it is this. The moment I let go is the moment I got more than I could ever know. The moment I jumped off is the moment that I grounded. So whatever you decide to do, just make sure that you decide to do it with everything in you. Anyhow, that is all I have for you today. Don't forget to download your worksheet off the website. Hooray, worksheets! Save yourself some paper and some writing. And it is a beautiful day in Lincoln, so Alexander Hamilton and I are now going to go take a long walk. Until next time, y'all. Bye.